So I don't know about y'all, but with the playoffs being about a month away, I still believe that the Boston Celtics are the team to beat in the NBA. I will say though, I do think this is going to be one of the most exciting playoff runs that we've seen in recent memory. I'm just looking at the Eastern Conference and I'm seeing what the Cavaliers are doing. I'm seeing what the Celtics are doing. You got my Knicks, the Bucks, the Pacers are looking better in the second half of the season. I hate the fact that we don't have a healthy Philadelphia 76ers team because I feel like if you put them in the mix with the expectation that we have for them coming into the season, the Eastern Conference is even more of a gauntlet. And then I look out west and I see what the Oklahoma City Thunder are doing again. The Nuggets are still to be respected. Then you have the teams that are rejuvenated post deadline, like the Warriors and the Lakers, and the phenomenal basketball both those teams are playing. Then you have the young teams like the Grizzlies and the Rockets. Minnesota, is on a or so win streak, looking really good as we again have the playoffs approach. So the playoffs are going to be magnificent. There's going to be some moments. We're going to have, some memories that are going to be made or whatnot. And I'm excited as ever for that to happen. But when I watch the last game or so that the Celtics had against the Lakers, which was one of those games for me. So what I'll say is around this time right now, I am trying to evaluate what I deem to be playoff basketball, or the style, or the feel and the environment and things like that. That game for me specifically had some of that. The Thunder and the Nuggets have played against each other twice in the last few days. That has had some playoffs type feel. So when I have those moments, I sit back and I watch the live version. I'll watch it again after, which is always a quicker watch because there's no, reviewing. There is no commercials and halftime show and pregame and all of that. And then I'll watch again for certain things that I'm trying to see, whether it's somebody getting attacked on defense, some stops, a certain quarter that I felt like stood out for me. And so that's what I did with the Celtics versus Lakers. And the more I watched that game, the more I had to ask myself, is there a team that I feel comfortable picking over the Boston Celtics in a 7-game series, whether that's out east, or is there a Western Conference team that could potentially meet them in the NBA Finals that would have some type of advantage? And all season long, I've been saying I know that they're not having the season that they had last year as far as the regular season goes. But still, when I watch Boston, I have yet to find a team that I can confidently and comfortably say I'm picking them in the series to win 4 out of the 7. I just don't see it. And this Laker game further cemented that thought for me because I've been saying that at every point of the season. I know a lot of people have looked at the Celtics like, man, is this just championship fatigue? You know what I'm saying? Is this some real issues we need to address? I'm going to just let you know right now, I think the Boston Celtics are a smart enough team to know, hey, the regular season is important. We're going to win as many games as we can, but we're not going to outwork ourselves, and we're not going to put pressure on ourselves to win 60 or 70 games or do anything crazy like that. So, hey, Porzingis, take as much time as you need, coming off of surgery that you had in the offseason. Or, Drew Holiday, your knee is bothering you, your wrist or whatever, take as much time. Jaylen Brown, you need to miss 10 or so games, go ahead. You know what I mean? Horford, you're getting up in age, you got to miss 10 or so games, go ahead. Our main goal is the playoffs. And as far as what we do, there is not going to be many teams that can stop us from the brand of basketball that we play. And that Laker game was a great example. I was dialed into that game because the Lakers have really flipped this switch and have really impressed me since the turn of the calendar and then since the trade deadline. Defensively, they've just been incredible. JJ Redick has done a really good job putting together schemes and game plans for certain teams. I felt like Luka and LeBron and even Austin Reeves give you kind of like 3 quarterbacks on a court at one time, and they can make so many different plays for all of the teammates around them. And the surrounding guys for the Lakers have really stepped up. I've talked, a lot about the shot making that Gabe Vincent is giving them, and he's buying into the defensive side of the basketball. Jackson Hayes has had some impressive games. He's making passes out of the short roll, and I'm like, whoa. I don't know if I've ever seen Jackson Hayes make a play like that. Dorian Finney-Smith is shooting the ball. Jared Vanderbilt is all over. He thrives in that type of defense that they play with the gap heavy and being able to run around and just be a menace. The Lakers have been dialed in. So I was very interested going into the Lakers-Celtic game to see how it would affect the Celtics, if it would affect the Celtics, and what would be their response and their game plan to win the game against the Lakers. And to see the Celtics in a game like that flip that switch and show that the level that they're on was like one of those cementing moments for me to say, yeah, I'm sticking with my thought. and my take that I've had all season long, that I just don't believe a team can beat the Celtics in a 7 game series. You might be able to catch them a couple of times in a regular season, but as far as a 7 game series where they are matched up with you and they have time between every single game to prepare and put together the game plans, the Celtics are going to outwork you. They're going to do their job and as far as what their philosophy is, and it's going to be very hard to stop. Even some of the things when I take a deep dive and look at them, and I take a look at some of their quote unquote weaknesses, right? We can address. They have a answer to kind of negate the weaknesses that they have. You know what I mean? Like, for instance, the fact that they quote unquote take so many threes that they don't put enough pressure on the rim to get easy buckets at the rim or to be able to get to the free throw line. That's a fair assessment when people say that. But not only do they not get to the free throw line because of the jump shots, they have a high frequency in their 3 point shots, right? They're the number one 3 point shooting team in the league and the number one 3 point rate. But with that rate, with the amount of volume that they have from behind the arc, they also have the accuracy. They're a top 10 shooting team as far as 3 point percentage, around 38%. So they're shooting nearly 40% on a league leading amount of threes, which is almost nearly 50 threes a game. So all of the points that people talk about at the free throw line that they miss out on, to me, they really make up for it at the 3 point line. If we're just being honest, on defense, they don't cause a bunch of turnovers or whatnot. You couldn't tell in a Laker game, but from a statistical standpoint, over the course of this season, they haven't been one of the teams that will turn you over a bunch. Well, that's fine because they don't turn the ball over a bunch. You know what I'm saying? They're not that brilliant as far as scoring in the paint. They're one of the last teams in the league as far as points in the paint. They're last in fast break points. But they're top 10 as far as opponents' fast break points. They're top 10 in opponents' points in the paint. They're top 10 in points, second chance points against opponents. So they're not going to let you score in the paint. They're not going to let you score easy, fast break points. You're not getting many second chance opportunities. They're not turning the ball over a bunch. And then they're going on the other side and they're shooting up a bunch of threes. They're making them at a high rate. And if they're not, or if the game is still somehow close, they still have a Jason Tatum. They still have a Finals MVP in Jaylen Brown. On the defensive end of the basketball court, they have positional size at every single position. Their guards at 6'4" and 6'5" are big. They have a 6'8" wing in Jason Tatum, another 6'7" wing in Jaylen Brown. They have a 7'3" Kristaps Porzingis. They have an Al Horford who is 6'8", 6'9", and really just is this instrumental piece for them as a vet. I was super impressed in that game against the Lakers with Al Horford when they tried to hunt him out on a perimeter and get him switched on to Luka and LeBron. And to see him at this age be able to move his feet and stay in front of these guys and not allow them to attack him and to be able to hold his own, allowed the Celtics to really progress in that second half and have such a strong, lead that they had going into, parts of the third and then in the fourth. And obviously the Lakers put together some type of run to kind of, give themselves a chance there at the end. But Al Horford really held it down. He used his size, his strength, his quickness laterally. He got hands on a lob that Luka was trying to get to Jared Vanderbilt, I remember. And even on the offensive end, he was knocking down shots like he's always done. His IQ, his experience, his leadership, and just his versatility on both ends of the floor, I really think is super instrumental. And I left this game saying, hey, the Boston Celtics are going to have to continue to convince this guy to play more years, or they're going to have to really nail down and figure out a replacement for him, because as of right now, if Al Horford was to retire at the end of the year, I just don't see a replacement out there for him on this roster or anybody that I view on the market potentially that can come in and do the things that he does. So he is a guy that they gotta hope is not trying to retire as long as they're winning these basketball games. As far as offense goes, along with them being able to switch 1 through 5 on a defense and to be able to hold their own and nobody's able to get hunted. Derek White was a guy that LeBron James was able to have his way with a little bit, but even then LeBron was making turnaround post fades that I think as a team you would live with. LeBron was making it, and he was getting that shot over Derek White, and it wasn't much of a contest. But I think, again, you live with that. That's a much better shot for the Celtics as a defense than when LeBron James had Derek White and kind of took him to the basket and was able to just get easy lays. There was a couple times Luka shot over Derek White. And again, that's a better shot for the Lakers to attack. But as a defense, you'll live with a long two or turnaround post fade versus them just going to the cup, putting their back on them and getting to that rim for that layup. And again, that's why the Boston Celtics are so super good. If Derek White is the guy, that you would have to kind of hunt, you're probably going to be in for a tough night if you're anybody but a LeBron James or a Luka Doncic. And then again, on the offensive side, they shoot the ball so good that it's just I don't know how you can pick your poison. A lot of teams in the playoffs, the approach is going to be extremely simple. The game plan is going to have its details, and every coach is going to figure out different strategies and whatnot. But a lot of times, you're starting to see now in the second half of the season in some of these matchups, teams are saying we'll live, right? Like the Lakers played against my Knicks. Hey, Josh Hart, we'll live. If Josh Hart is going to make 9, we'll live. You know what I'm saying? We have certain teams or certain, like against the Lakers, there are going to be teams that say Jared Vanderbilt will live. He can have that corner 3-point shot. When you have the Boston Celtics, there is no will live, right? 40% three-point shooters. Kristaps Porzingis in the 30-something games he's played, he's shooting 40% from three. Peyton Pritchard, 40% from three. Sam Hauser is damn near 40% from three. Derek White on high volume, about 8 or so 9 threes a game, around 40% from three. Jason Tatum, 35%, but he shoots 10 attempts a game. At that volume, you'll take 35% from three. You have your middle of the pack, quote-unquote, shooters, and Al Horford, Drew Holiday shooting around 35% from three. The worst three-point shooting rotational player that they have is Jaylen Brown. And you know what he's best at? Driving and getting to the paint and sometimes creating his own shot. He's attacking Luka on the other hand. You know what I mean? Because they have such a strong shooting prowess as a team that when you allow a Jaylen Brown or a Jason Tatum to have a matchup that they want and that they can attack, when you collapse as a defense, you're now surrounding them on the perimeter with guys that can knock down shots. Horford, Drew, White, Hauser is checking in, Peyton Pritchard, like all of these guys that I just named. So it's going to be extremely tough to necessarily pick your guy and pick your poison that you say you're going to live with. And then on the other end, they're switching 1 through 5. They have, and I have to say this, though I have them as my team to beat, I am not here to tell anybody that's viewing this that they're unbeatable, that it's impossible, that it's not going to happen, that it's never can happen, and never will happen. That's not what I'm saying. I have to preface that because numbers on the board, we did a top 10 players in the league currently, like as of right now list, and I set the record straight. It's ironic that we're talking about this. I set the record straight. I said, hey, number 6 for me is Jason Tatum, but I'm all recency bias. I'm not even gonna lie to y'all. I'm letting it be known. Jason Tatum is nowhere near 6. As good as he is, it's crazy to put him at 6. But I'm going off the recency bias of what I've seen for Steph and LeBron for me right now. If anybody disagrees, if anybody feels differently, I wouldn't even argue with you. You have every right. Somehow, I still have about 2 or 3 Celtic people tweeting me talking about, how could you have Jay? I told you how I could have him. I told you that I know he's not, in theory, really number 6. I told you that I'm going strictly off the recency bias, so how are you still bothered? So I have to preface and say, the Boston Celtics, for me, are still the team to beat, but I am not here to tell anybody that the Thunder have no way in hell, no way in the world a chance. No, I'm not here to tell you that the Cavaliers have no way in hell and there's no outcome where the Cavaliers can do it. No, those are 2 teams that I feel like are going to be extremely good matchups for them. Those are 2 teams that have held their own during the regular season. Though, again, 7-game series is way different than, a random Tuesday in the course of an 82-game season. But as of this year, the Cavs are 2-2 with the Celtics. Both teams have won a game in 2024. Both teams early in the season. Both teams have won a game more recently in 2025 in the month of February. The Thunder have won the only matchup so far against the Celtics. They'll play again, I think, sometime in March. And one of the things that the Thunder were able to do, again, goes back to having to do something in a 7-game series. They held the Celtics to shooting 19% from 3. That's just something that I don't feel like can be replicated on a consistent basis in a 7-game series against the Boston Celtics. So again, even in a game like that, where I felt that was an MVP statement game for Shea, he handled his business. The Thunder had a game plan defensively, but he was able to bother the Celtics enough to have them shoot not only, not the typical way, but they shot. That was a disaster. That might be, and I don't have my research in front of me, but that might be the worst shooting night that the Celtics have had in the last 2 or so years. At 19% as a team, you don't get that from the Celtics a lot. And so the Thunder had a game plan. They executed. They bothered them enough. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander came out and hooped and stood on top of the moment in Oklahoma City. They was able to deliver a win. But again, in the course of a playoff series, for me, based off what I've seen this year, based off what I've seen last year, based off what I see with their roster and the game plan and the philosophies that they play by and how they go about what they're trying to do on offense and defense, it's hard for me to imagine that that is going to be replicated or could be replicated through the course of a 7-game series. I don't know too many teams that's going to bother the Celtics that much where they're going to shoot below 32% as a team for an entire series from three. And as far as the Cavaliers, 2-2, this has been a really good series. I'm excited for this. I think it would be really good for basketball if we was able to get this as the Eastern Conference Finals. I'm all for upsets. I'm all for, matchups and teams at the lower seeding being able to give some of these higher seeded teams a run for their money. But I'm also for the two best teams who have looked like the two best teams all season long, matching up with each other on the biggest stage, Eastern Conference Finals. You even look at the regular season, 2-2 split. It don't get more juicier than this, in my opinion. It don't get more better than this. If these two teams can meet in the Eastern Conference Finals, we are going to have a very, very, very good run as NBA fans. The two things I will say, because you have to put these things out here, fans always go crazy, like the Lakers. The Lakers didn't have Jackson Hayes in the games that they played. Celtics didn't have Kristaps Porzingis. In a couple of these Cavalier games, the first game that the Cavs won, there was no Jaylen Brown. The second game the Cavs won, there was no Drew Holiday or Kristaps Porzingis. It's not to take anything away from the Cavs. It's just to put the information out there for anybody who doesn't remember or wasn't aware. Those were still good wins for the Cavaliers. Those were some good performances. I think Evan Mobley had a really good, strong fourth quarter in one of those games. That might have actually been the game that the Cavaliers lost, that the Celtics won at home. But I've loved the way it's been matched up. And in these games, again, I feel like some of the advantage for me lays with the Celtics. The ability to be able to switch 1 through 5 and hold their own. The ability to be able to use that size against a smaller backcourt. They're just damn good. You know what I mean? To be able to have guys like Peyton Pritchard, Sam Hauser have that confidence that they have coming off the bench. And then when you're able to have Kristaps Porzingis, that also gives you more depth because now, either him or Horford is coming off the bench. I'm just interested in a 7-game series to see Kenny Atkinson and Joe Mazzulla use all of the weapons that they have. These are two teams that have, an enormous toolbox. They have extreme versatility. They have really good star players that they can lean on in clutch moments and down the stretch or throughout the course of games. Donovan Mitchell at any point can get 50 in a playoff game. Jason Tatum has showed he could get 50 in a playoff game. Darius Garland, in one of these matchups, he shot really, really bad for the Cavs in one of those games. But we know how clutch he can be. The size of Evan Mobley and Jared Allen in the front court. But then the quickness and the versatility of a lineup that has Horford at the 5 and Tatum at the 4. So again, these are going to be some extremely good matchups. I'm ultimately going with the Boston Celtics, man. I just, again, I can't picture a team being able to beat them. I really can't. Again, they don't turn the ball over. They don't foul a bunch. So though that they don't get to the free throw line, they're not putting their opponents at the free throw line at a high amount. They still are averaging more free throw attempts than their opponents in each game. And again, I love the fact that they're not giving up second chance points. I love the fact that they're able to limit fast break opportunities. I love the fact that they can protect the paint even when a guy like Kristaps Porzingis isn't playing. And to just be able to have the luxury of knowing in every single game, you have Derek White, Drew Holiday, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Al Horford, and or Kristaps Porzingis, who when he's playing, he's being an elite, showing flashes of elite rim protection throughout. I don't know how he's going to look on a consistent basis after we haven't seen him in a while, and I know he's dealing with this illness or whatnot, but Kristaps, when he's locked in and healthy, he's protecting the rim. And to be able to have that option of perimeter defense that can switch like Horford or rim protection or a little bit of both, it's just, again, another incredible tool for Joe Mazzulla to be able to use in any of these series where they get matched up. You know what I'm saying? So I can't wait to see the Celtics go off in the playoffs. 50% of their shots are coming from behind the arc. Like, the amount of threes that this team is going to get up, it's just, they're never out of a game. And a game can go from being close to being heavily on their side. They start to ring off those threes, and before you know it, you were just down 6, and you look up, and now you're down 17 in a blink of an eye. Or you have an 11-point lead, and the next thing you know, 2 possessions, you come back, it's a 5-point game because they just made back-to-back threes. It was a few times in that Laker game where they were able to rotate that basketball, and they got it in the corner properly, and they were able to execute those corner 3-point shots, and it looked like J.J. Redick was about to pull his hair out, because you just do not have the luxury to focus or load up. God forbid Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum or both are having one of those nights where they're feeling themselves, and you want to send extra bodies or you want to send extra help. Who are you sending it from? Because all of these guys can make shots. And last year in the finals and during the playoff run, Drew Holiday showed that he not only can make shots, but he played in a dunker spot. He got around. He's doing floaters, playing underneath the basket, still making plays out of there. There's just too many weapons that they have, and I just haven't seen in a very long time a team have a style of play, have an identity on offense and defense that they want, and to have the roster fit picture perfect to what you're trying to accomplish. It's a match made in heaven, man. It's a match made in heaven. Those are my thoughts on the Boston Celtics. It feels good to be back on the YouTube channel. Obviously, I got the Teed Up podcast now. Been taking a lot of time and attention away from me, but I'm ready to tap back into my YouTube community as we get closer and closer, not only to March Madness, but the NBA playoffs. As always, get in those comments and let me know y'all thoughts. Celtic fans, I know a lot of this stuff y'all are going to agree with, but my non-Celtic fans, if you agree, disagree, if there's anything that I miss, if there's another concern that you think is a legitimate concern, feel free. I'm open to all basketball takes, whether we agree, disagree, or not. It's all love at the end of the day. I appreciate y'all, and I will see y'all next time. I'm out. Peace.